All right, and we are live with the third Savage race of the season, Savage Central Florida. It's a busy weekend in obstacle course racing, but we're going to bring you all the action live from Savage in, I said Central Florida, I mean Central Texas. We're in Texas this week. With me, star of the Running Public podcast, Bracken Crocker. Bracken, good morning. How are you, sir?
Josh Chase, I'm excited to be here. Savage race, the People's Champ. Is this the third live stream they put on this year now?
It's the third live stream, and committed to keeping it live as much as we can all year long, bringing it to the people.
That's 100% more live streams than all the other races combined.
Well, they know what the people want, man. The people want to see live sports, and if this is the way we're going to do it, then we'll make sure to bring it to them. So we already have over 100 people watching live, which is great. And let's take a look. We are a few minutes away from the men's elite start. Let's take a look at Savage this weekend. So we got our Savage map. If you're not familiar with the Savage course, this full Savage race is just over 6 miles. We got 26 to 28 obstacles generally, and we're in a position here to see some good competition. We don't have some of the big names like the Ryan Kempsons and the Nicole Miracles this week, so opportunities for some new athletes to hit the top of the podium. Bracken, who do you got that's going to be here that you think might make some waves?
Well, we have one of the 3 or 4 most underrated obstacle course racers on the planet here with us today, and that's Ian Hosick. Ian has multiple top 10 Spartan World Championship podiums, and he's just not considered among that elite of the elite when a lot of the casual fans talk about the sport. But I mean, today the casual fan, if they're tuned in, is going to learn exactly who Ian is.
And this is Ian's very first Savage race ever.
Yes.
So it's his first time seeing these obstacles. And, you don't think it plays into it when you're running up to an obstacle, but just when all you've done is some of the other brands and some of these obstacles are one and done and you don't know sort of the retry mindset, it can change things mid-race. So it'll be interesting to see Hosick out on course. I think he's jazzed up for this too. So
yeah, it is a game changer. I did my first Savage against Yuri Force and Ken Crigliano, who had done dozens themselves. And when I finally got around in my schedule line and I made it to one, I found that on every single obstacle, I lost a second or two. As they came in with a plan already, they were efficient on it, they knew what to do, and I had to watch them a little bit. And then I didn't do one for a few years after I did several, took a few years off, came back, and they had a whole new gauntlet of obstacles, which Savage does a fantastic job. They update their obstacle stash every year. And again, we got to things where I had never seen it, pedal to the metal, things like that. There's a technique to it. And we watched last week with Kempson. He knew how to do with them all. And then you saw a few first timers. It takes a second to get that rhythm. And Ian will have to deal with that today.
yeah, and if we look at the map here, so we've got, the final obstacles. There's no joke here, right? You get Colossus where they're going to get you soaking wet. You go right into Sawtooth, the huge monkey bars. You kick right over into Wheel World. You've got Yank My Chain as one of the end obstacles, which we saw the ladies run into a little bit of a problem with a couple weeks ago in Georgia. So who knows what we could see this week. But let's kick over to the live feed as the men are ready to go off here.
It's interesting you mentioned Yank My Chain. Nicole Miracle messaged me afterwards. She said, they didn't show it, but you have no idea how heavy that chain actually was, especially having to do the men's weight.
Yeah, and it's one of those unique obstacles where just looking at a pile of chain, you're like, okay, I can lift that up. That's not too big of a deal. But just the nuance of it getting heavier every time the link gets off the ground, it's just a simple obstacle that can be deceivingly difficult.
So I think we showed Luke Halterman there with the top man bun. He's someone that's going to be in play here. He's more of a local guy, and I think we might see him up on a podium today. But also we have the return of Van Tran, allegedly. Van was around when I started this sport and kind of always seemed like he might be the next wave of guys to come up. And then he stepped away for a bit. So I'm excited to see him back on the course in front of an audience who get to see how good that man is on obstacles.
And returning podiums, we've got Jared Flank, who I lovingly refer to him as the guy in red shorts. You see him front and center at the start line here. So he's returning, and he was second place in Savage, Georgia, so certainly going to compete. So the men
absolute best thing you can do for a televised race is wear something bright that sets you apart.
They're doing it.
So Jared's no fool.
So the men are off, and they've got a pretty solid group of elite men out there. So they look to be probably 25 to 30, if I had to guess, men in the elite wave. So we've got Lee and Caleb on the Gators flying around. So
now, what we saw last time out in Georgia was the group decided to let Kempson go, and they made it a race for second place. I don't know if we're going to see people commit to that strategy against Ian. I don't think he commands the type of speed respect that the others give Kempson, but I think his plan should be to get out front early and give himself a cushion for all these new obstacles he's about to hit.
Yeah, and Ian, if you don't know Ian Hosick, he dubs himself as the Mad Wizard of OCR. So if I know Ian at all, I know that he was probably studying that map. He was at the venue yesterday. He's going to know where to. You famously, Bracken, have this analogy about burning matches during a race.
Yes,
I feel like he probably knows the first mile to 2 miles. There's some opportunity to burn a match right from the get-go.
Yeah, he's an engineer in every sense of the word. He would not show up somewhere without having broken down every single aspect of it and planned for it. But you can see that Jared's out here pushing and not conceding right from the start.
So we've got the women kicking off next. So tell us about a couple names that we see in the women's field and who to look out for this week.
Well, in my unlearned opinion, Josh, we have Chris Roglowski, Ashley Samples, Shannon Woodard, and Isabel Zamora are my top 4. And I think that Chris Roglowski stands out, at least on paper, as the favorite in my eyes.
Yeah, and Chris has been atop the Savage podium a handful of times previously. She was on there 2 weeks ago in Savage, Georgia. Ashley Samples was supposed to be there, had some flight troubles. Spirit Airlines will do that to you sometimes. So I think she's been hankering to get back up there as well. So
when you take a look at this women's field, you see several women who are on the Conquer the Gauntlet Pro Team or the Grit Pro Team. And what that tells you right away is that they are obstacle proficient. So whereas we saw a lot of issues in Georgia with the females getting hung up on rigs, I do not think it'll be as big of an issue this week at this race, because these are the type of women who this will not be the most difficult race they've ever seen. And here's Isabel up front with a very bright hair and bright clothes.
Yeah, if you've ever seen a Conquer the Gauntlet course, and I've never run one, but their obstacles speak for themselves. They've got obstacles like Pegatron, which is a pegboard traverse, probably 20 feet long that you have to get across, which seemingly a simple obstacle, just put the peg in the hole and do it like monkey bars, but a little bit different when there's you're free floating, you're trying to move the grips, you're trying to maintain some semblance of like patience as you're swinging around. So there's a lot of strength and technique involved in all of that.
Yeah, there really is. And this is the kind of race course being a Savage with unique, tricky obstacles. And they change their rigs up every week. You need a bit of rig and obstacle background in your game to have a good chance of getting through on your first or second try.
Yeah, and usually we see the rigs beforehand. We didn't get a chance to see it this week, which makes me think that we're either in for a surprise. I say we, the athletes, really the ones in for a surprise. Or they just want to try it out and say, hey, let's keep it under wraps and see how these guys handle getting up to something that they haven't seen before. And that's an advantage. If you've ever come to an obstacle from one of the other brands and there's no hesitation. Whereas you come to a Savage obstacle or even an obstacle at some of the other championships, right? Like if I come to an obstacle at OCR Worlds that I've never seen before, then I don't know how to approach it. You got to take that extra few seconds, and that we've seen it before. Those few seconds can be the determining factor of podium or not podium.
They really are. And today, like you said, we haven't been shown the rig, which means they wanted to keep it under wraps. And then even the seasoned Savage racers are going to probably see a portion of some obstacles that are different than any version they've seen in the past.
And we've got, before the women kick off here, so the rig itself is also relatively early in the race. So they've got it at obstacle 15, so sort of the midpoint of where all these obstacles sit. So the men are going to be hitting the rig relatively early in the race. So it can allow you to separate yourselves a little bit, or might afford you some opportunity to catch up in that case as well.
So we have what looks to be Jared and Ian alone up front, and Jared again not seeming to be deferring to Ian at any point in this course. Now, Ian, I give him a lot of credit for coming out to this Savage. It's one thing to make a Savage debut and knowing you're at a disadvantage with obstacle history, but Ian is self-admittedly a long-distance mountain specialist, and you're not going to find any semblance of mountains or long distance down here in Texas today.
Yeah, the old the Texas Hill Country is these short, unforgiving, steep inclines, but certainly not anything that you're going to have to bear down and work your way up over long distances in time. So Ian doesn't strike me as somebody who is like, as much as he's an amazing athlete, I don't know that he's got that same like killer instinct. I will outrun you and just make you keep up with my pace. I feel like he's more what's the wrestling term? He's a more cerebral assassin, right? Where he'll run right beside you, I think, and force you to make the errors or just make you make the mistakes, and he'll just continue business as usual.
He absolutely will. Now it's interesting watching them run. They've been avoiding the dirt a lot. You'll see them leave the dirt area and move up onto the grass. So either it's sticky or it's really soft and sandy, but either way, they're not finding good purchase on that. And you rarely see people move off the road in obstacle races, but that kind of speaks to the deceptiveness of the terrain. There we go. Too bad they cut away there, Josh. We're about to see how Ian's about to lose a few seconds coming in and out of some of these obstacles.
Yeah, those hurdles, right? There's efficient ways to get over those hurdles. There's not efficient ways to do it. If you pause and take that step, once you get up to it, or you can just take it in stride. We saw Jared just kind of take it like a steeplechaser. So we've got the women out on the course. The connection over near the start line is not the greatest. So we're going to stick with the lead men for just a little bit, and then when the signal for the women gets a little bit better, we'll hang with them. But right now it's Jared and Ian, and then it's everybody else as far as we're concerned. And then there's cows.
This could be interesting because if you've ever seen a cow in person in full flight, you're not challenging that. You will have to wait and just give up time on course if those cows are crossing the course in front of you.
Well, it's Texas, folks, so you never know what you'll find. But today it's cows on course. So
Josh, I want to go back to those consecutive hurdles there, because what we saw, the two different styles there highlighted who they are as athletes. Ian's that long distance racer who really has prioritized efficiency over obstacles. Mm-hmm. And he did the kind of technique there where you put your waist lean towards your chest a little bit, and then you sling yourself and do a half turn over the top, because it doesn't take any sort of push up, muscle up effort over the top. Whereas Jared recognized this is an hour or less of racing. I'll burn half a match here.
Yeah, and the other thing too is just how much, it's amazing how much your heart rate can change when you try and take these obstacles in stride and you do that one fell swoop over the hurdle, as opposed to stopping a second, take your breath. Like your heart rate can spike even on the simplest, that first 4-foot wall, right? If you think you're a 180 beats per minute runner, add a 4-foot wall into that obstacle every half mile, and you're going to go 3, 4, 8 beats per minute faster. So
yeah, and we saw Ian run him down right after. And so that question is, did Ian have to burn a little bit to catch up, or was that a little bit of a gas tank dagger that Jared hit and he had to slow down?
Yeah, I think the differentiator will definitely be once we see him come into the rig and a handful of those other obstacles, where do we see their performance and how does it change here? Let me see if we have anything on the women.
Okay, so there's Isabel Zamora there, just off screen to our right.
You're feeling great when you can give the camera a wave and a smile mid-race. So the women are in the first mile, so they're coming up to just a couple quick obstacles, barn doors, which are just some walls, sawhorses, low crawls. And then the men are in the low crawls as well. So I know we're a couple places back from the lead spot for right now. Hey, Lee, I don't know if you can hear me. Do you have an idea of what place these guys are in?
Yeah, right now we're looking at third, fourth, and fifth.
Third, fourth, and fifth. I think this is where, it's anybody's game in this case. If we had to handicap, it's, we got Ian and Jared battling for first, and then from there, I think we're going to see a larger group piled in spot on the podium.
I couldn't see who was in third there, but the shorter figure with black compression shorts on is Van Tran. So he's sitting in fourth. Depending on who's in third, I'd expect Van, if he can hang on that run a little bit, to make huge moves on the obstacles. He's a little ninja through those.
One of those people that can just fly through obstacles like they don't abide by the same rules of gravity that everybody else does.
Yeah, he's short. He's probably 5'6", 5'7", really strong pound for pound, and he did a lot of Battle Frog back in the day.
Lee, how far away from the Savage rig are you guys? Do you know offhand?
Yeah, about 2.5 miles.
Okay. So the boys and girls have got some running to do in the old Texas backcountry.
And Jared's still leading Ian by a stride here.
Walls and wire type obstacles. All the rigs are in the second half.
Which is interesting because Ian's a lot of things in this sport, but get up and go in between obstacles is certainly not his bread and butter. He's a gain ground in between obstacles when you have several minutes of open, and this is the several minutes of open. It's front loaded. Yep. If he gets to the second half here, he's as proficient as anyone. His grip strength, he doesn't fail obstacles, but if he loses a second or two because he hasn't seen them before, he's not the Kempson type who's going to accelerate and mash the gas pedal down in between every obstacle when they're close together late in the race.
Beside them as they go over the walls.
Yeah, and you guys have, you specifically talk a lot about this compromise running, and there was that sort of conflict between your mindset and Ian's mindset where he was not a fan of the compromise running, but turns out he sort of practices the same kind of techniques, maybe under a different guise than compromise running, but he's big into the running while under duress, I guess is really what he brings it down to. So
yeah, and he's from his style of focus and training, he's going long and he's going steep. And so he has, 5, 10, 15 minutes in between depletion type activities where in the second half of this race, he's going to go 30 to 90 seconds in between each one, which, he'll self-admit that's the part of OCR that is his least strong. Uh-oh. We almost had a Rose Wetzel incident there in the barbed wire.
That's race brain at its finest. He gets into that that method of running with the head down, and all of a sudden an obstacle shows up and you weren't expecting it.
Look how aggressive he attacks this compared to what Ian's going to do through here. Now that's very costly. The style of race that Jared's using right now is very costly, but Ian is not exactly looking fresh right now either. So,
say, if you had to analyze his form, where would you put that right now?
This looks like a man who spent all winter long below freezing up in the mountains of Montana, and now he's running in Texas on flat, sandy ground. This is climate shock. He's not going to fade badly, but he also needs Jared to hit something that slows him up, because when you are used to cold and you hit heat, it is really draining.
Yep.
And this gap is the first one we've really seen. This is going to be kind of that gut check moment for Ian, where do I throttle down a little bit, get outside of that maintainable effort and burn one to get back up to him, or do I run the risk of this gap turning into something that's not manageable?
Yeah, and this is, even from where they were just moments ago on the low crawl in the walls, they were sort of neck and neck. Jared got into the obstacles a bit quicker, but Jared opening it up here on the straightaways. So
yeah, it goes to show that he made that decision on that crawl, a really aggressive, non-efficient motion, but suddenly it gives him 20 yards of running clean and clear. But Josh, we saw a few weeks ago that this gap right here means absolutely nothing if you have to retry one obstacle.
It is true. So we got another camera that we had for a second for the ladies, but a little bit better connection as we get out into the Texas wild. But Yeah, that's the differentiator with Savage, right? It's no matter how far away you are, all of a sudden there could be an obstacle that trips everybody up, and you're battling. 2 weeks ago, I think, was one of the most exciting battles we've seen in OCR in years, right? We had 4 or 5 women on the same exact obstacle, and whoever comes out first came out in second place at that point. So.
Yeah, and I think we just saw a glimpse. I think that was Chris Roglowski with the long braided ponytail, but it's tough to tell. Was she in first leading that pack, or was she the tail end of that pack? And Ian has not cut into that lead. In fact, he might have lost another 5 to 10 meters in that last section.
And when you think about the running in Texas too, and if you're running in like the rutted sand, a little bit different from running on the frozen roads of Wyoming and Idaho, where Ian kind of frequents, right? You've got a solid foot placement every time you step, whereas here, you're pretty much running on the beach.
Yeah, and I mean, we can dig as far as we want into this. He might just be, biding his time, and he's going to hammer in the second half and make us look foolish. But Ian's not a high cadence runner. He's more of a grindy type long stride runner. Mm-hmm. And the slower your cadence, the more it gets exaggerated on sandy, sloppy terrain. And
that's my well, amongst other things, that's one of my weaknesses. I have that slower cadence just because I've got longer legs. But once you start getting into those areas of terrain where your steps are not solid and you have to recover steps as you're running, it just gets more awkward and more effort.
And you watch Jared, and he looks less efficient when he runs. He looks like he's fighting a lot more, but he also has a very short, fast turnover stride, which is really rewarded when you get to that dusty, sandy terrain type, the sandy ground.
So we're working on getting a better camera, Sam said, for the women's field. So as we pop over, still touch and go connection wise, but we're hunting down the women. But the men should be coming up to, they've got Anchors Away as their 11th obstacle, which shouldn't be too far away. And then that second half of the course, like Lee was saying, they get into the real obstacle heavy stuff.
No, Josh, I was just going back through because I rolled an ankle this week, so I was back on the spin bike doing indoor training, which drives me crazy. So I have to watch old races. And I was watching the Savage race where Ken Crigliano beat VJ Jones. And I think this was 2018. So VJ was already a star and a stud. And this was a lot of how the race looked. VJ would push on the run and pass people on the downhill, and Ken would get 3 to 5 seconds on every single obstacle until suddenly it was too late and VJ ran out of time.
Yeah, and Ken is one of those people that, he is that bar down. He'll go until his heart explodes if he has to, right? For him, it's all or nothing in a lot of these cases.
And this is where it's not fun to be the favorite. Ian is by far the highest ranked person. If you look at Jack Bauer's rankings or anyone's power rankings, no one else in this race on paper was within a few deviations of where he stands. And yet, as soon as there's blood in the water, someone like Jared realizes this is my moment. This is my time to have the biggest win of my career and take down the biggest name I've ever beaten. And suddenly they have a whole lot more motivation than you have at that moment when you're thinking, really, did I come all this way to get beat? It's a different mindset, and you're about to get their best version of them.
That's a great thing about this, the motivation you get. Just, we can go out on training runs all day long and have great training runs and feel good afterwards. But the difference between that and then having, a run on course with athletes beside you, it's night and day, the performance that you can put out.
It is. Now, is this Ashley Samples here, or is this Shannon Woodard? I think it's Ashley Samples sitting there. And what I would guess is third.
Yep, third place.
Caleb, is that Ashley that you're running with?
Yes. And Chris is in first, and I'm not quite sure who's in second at the moment.
All right, so we got Chris in first, somebody else in second, and then Ashley currently in third right now.
Ashley in third. She's a Conquer the Gauntlet Pro Team member, as far as I can tell. I think she still is this year. It's always tough with this COVID year because a lot of teams aren't making signings or announcing anything.
Yeah.
But regardless if she is this year or not, you know that if she's asked in the past to be on the pro team for Conquer the Gauntlet, she really should not struggle with anything Savage throws at her.
Yeah, and the guys just passed Lumberjack Lane, so that's obstacle 9. They've got, I think, just a low crawl before that, and then Anchors Away right after that. So we'll cut over to the boys. Ian's still grinding it out. Looks like Jared a little further ahead.
Yeah, Ian's stride is really slowed, and Jared's stretching this gap out. He's probably doubled it or 2.5 times since they left that low crawl. He's about to head into his section of the course, which are all the obstacles he knows, and he's got a lead, and that's going to give him such a head full of steam here moving forward.
How do you position, if you're in a lead like that, Bracken, like tell me about your mindset. You go in, you've got probably 10 to 20 seconds. Are you a conserve in case they catch up, or are you a burn it all and use everything you got and force them to keep up with you?
In this situation, Jared being in a position to take something he's never had before, and in a race where he knows Ian's going to be a little bit learning on the fly, getting out of sight is the single biggest thing he can do. Even if he has to burn an extra match to get out of sight, as soon as he's out of sight, it just takes hope away, and it takes away the ability for Ian to match his cadence through terrain or his technique on obstacles.
So Lee, is that Anchors Away we're coming up on?
Yeah, this is Anchors Away, the first rig type obstacle.
All right, so we'll keep it here.
This will be really interesting to watch, Josh, to see the two different styles. Here's where we'll figure out if Ian's research that he's done, the videos he's watched, and any training he was able to look at all those cows in the background. That's fantastic. If he's able to translate any of that to the race, because Jared's going to double skip and swing all the way through. He's only going to have 3 points of contact on that whole rig. He got done in under, 4 seconds, and he's off. Where it might take Ian 4 seconds if he doesn't have a great strategy, it might take him 4 seconds just to get the first ring attached securely.
And just those little nuances about knowing how to land the ring in the front of the anchor. I think there's so many.
Look at this. He's already lost the entire time. Now he made the double skip, but it took him 4 seconds to even mount it. Ooh.
That's a 30-second difference we've got between his ringing the bell and Jared's ringing the bell. So Ian is back, of course.
He did really well. That's the kind of technique through there that shows that he practiced it, and that's the kind of thing that would keep him a lead if he had a lead. But it's not the kind of obstacle attacking that's going to get him back into the race, unfortunately. It's where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer in a situation like this.
We can follow you. Let's go up to
So Caleb, are you still with, is that still Ashley that you're with?
Yep, she's sitting in third right now. She's probably 30 seconds behind Chris in first. And fifth is Simmons, probably about 5 to 10 seconds behind Chris.
Perfect.
Can we get a look backwards real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Did you see a little hamstring pull up there? Is that what you were looking at?
Yeah, and I
Yes.
wanted to see the next
It looks
female
like
coming
he's
over.
starting Oh, fourth? Hold here.
She's got at least 60 meters, 70 meters on the woman behind her, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're way back there. Fourth and fifth are.
Oh, even more, yeah. So we have a 3-woman race right now. Pretty spread out.
Yes, extremely spread out. And fourth and fifth is also very ahead of the rest of the pack.
Yeah, so there's a big gap between the podium positions for the girls and then 4, 5, 6, etc.
And that's pretty telling because they haven't hit anything yet that's retriable. So this is
Here's
all
fourth place
running.
right now.
Oh, I thought, wow.
Yeah, buddy.
When we saw that man come over the wall, I thought he was one of the female racers from this far away. So she has already a minute lead on fourth. And this would be Isabel, I believe.
Yep.
who appears to be running hard and moving well. By that view, she was moving as well as Ashley was. So I wonder what happened back there.
Yeah, that was when you look at that run form and just the determination, that's somebody who's feeling comfortable running. So the girls have a little bit, the women have a little bit before they come up to Anchors Away. The guys are coming up to Scorn Hole, Squeeze Play, us tall guys' favorite obstacle, and then the Savage Rig is actually, I didn't realize the Savage Rig is right after Mud and Guts. So they're going to put them into a low crawl with some mud and then drop them onto the rig. Classic Savage right there.
It is, isn't it? It's funny how you take one obstacle that's very difficult or doable but difficult, and you raise it up 3 or 4 notches just by getting everyone muddy right before they have to touch the grips. There's obstacles where if you're the first person through it, you're the worst because you have all the dew sitting on it and you clean it off for people. Obstacles like this are going to get worse for every single person that comes after you because every person tracks their mud onto it.
The course is full of other obstacles today. Spectators, cows, everybody's in on the action. I want to say, I'm pretty sure it was Texas. I was down a couple of years ago. Same thing, just cows wandering. They don't, they're not going to wall off the course for any of the wildlife. So you never know what you run into.
Now you run into unique situations in Texas.
So we get our first look at the Savage Rig. So Lee, give us a quick run through of the rig. So it looks like a rope jump to start.
Yeah, you jump to the rope, use that momentum to swing to this pipe, a very short lache to the blue cheese wall. Blue cheese wall is at a slight incline to anchors that you use your hands to get across, followed by a sheet to the bell. So there's 2 or 3 different hard sections in here.
So another notch taken up by Savage with their rig. So if the jump to the rope to start isn't challenging enough, you get the low bar before you get up to the cheese and then ramp it up a bit further. The cheese is an incline this time around. So,
this visually doesn't look difficult compared to last time because there's no really long lache or transition point, but every part of that is just tough enough that it's going to be just as hard as Georgia.
Yeah, and that's the thing with these rigs is you don't have to make it, 20 feet long with all these, impossible grips. It's just these little things. And especially when you get to these rigs that have multiple transitions, you're facing forward, you're traversing sideways, you're switching grips, like just these little nuances about these rigs is what makes them difficult and interesting.
If we could get the camera to go right over to that transition from bar to cheese, this is, I think, going to be the point that the female race is really going to get decided on because you're coming from a rope down to the bar. And when you go down, it's going to be very difficult if you don't keep momentum going to span that gap from the lower bar all the way up to that top hand grip because the cheese is as low as the bar, but there's no place to grab on there other than way up near the top. And so anyone who's under, I don't know, maybe 5'8" is going to have trouble getting that without momentum swinging upwards and out at the same time.
We got big fans.
We're expecting Jared in about 30 seconds.
All right. So Jared will be the first into the rig. We haven't seen how far behind Ian is gap-wise. I know still waiting on the women to come up to Anchors Away, so we'll cut over to them if we get the opportunity, if we see them there. But lots of fans of the rig in the chat.
Josh, when you get to anything cloth or rope style where you can't use your legs, you just have to squeeze with both hands. Most people get on that, and all you can do is slip down a little bit and hope you get to the next section before you finish slipping. And coming off Anchors Away, having to grab onto that cloth at the end when people's grip's at their most depleted, that's going to be another really challenging finish to this rig.
Woo!
Right through.
You know what I always forget about is kicking the bell is still legal at Savage.
I was going to say that one of those things, if you haven't run a Savage and you're not familiar with it, kicking the bell not only is allowed, in most cases it's encouraged.
Yeah.
And for us tall guys, it can be the difference between winning and losing because, like you said, with the fabric there's multiple types of grip, right? There's the grip of a bar if you're doing a pull up, and then there's that crushing grip that you need for that fabric. That's the one I know I'm weakest on. Famously the ropes under the bridge at Killington need that.
Yes.
So I'll take any advantage I can, and kicking the rope or the bell is definitely the right way to do it. So Ian's got that long reach enough to go right from the bar to the cheese.
Mm-hmm. You can see how bendy that is, that if you get on the same side like that, it really saps you. And there you go. That transition point is tough when the cheese is bending and you lose a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, and that's, if you have never done these, you don't know that those things are going to bow, right? Like a tube or a piece of plywood once you get onto it. So just that unexpected tension on your forearms that you might not be aware of. So Ian's going to take a second try at this.
So now he's in trouble. He has to make a decision here to either sit there and wait a bit like he did and give up time. You're just leaking time right there. Notice how he went to the other side now because he wants to transition with his right hand forward.
Yep.
But you're just leaking time waiting. But if you rush it too soon, you're going to fail it again. So he took just enough time, took his better strategy. Now he's going to get through just fine. But he had to give up 10, 12 seconds of run time just in order to make sure he didn't give up another 3 minutes by failing again.
And third place is not far behind him at this point. So
that's Van Tran here. Good at obstacles, but he got his hand facing the wrong way on that anchors away.
And did you see how he just casually was dangling with one arm? And he was like, I'll just go back and switch up my grip and do it again.
That's the difference between someone like Ian, who's a fantastic obstacle racer and pretty good with grip, to someone who is a very good ninja warrior and also a good obstacle racer.
So there is a positional fight for not just third, but there is possibility where these guys can challenge for second as well.
And this is where that mental game is going to come into play. Now, luckily, Ian is as tough as it gets mentally. But when you go from battling for first to suddenly realizing, oh man, I might not even make a podium if I make one more mistake, that changes your mindset from attacking in a race to running not to mess up.
Hey, Caleb, we're cutting over to you. Do you have, are the women coming up to Anchors Away?
Yes, Chris is getting ready on the approach right now. Here she comes. And she definitely took over when it came up to block party, so she's way ahead of second and third right now.
So this with a commanding lead, it sounds like, into Anchors Away.
There's certain uniforms that you wear on course that don't allow you to mess up on an obstacle. And that grit protein jersey right there means that she's not allowed to miss a grip obstacle. Ooh, she looks fast coming out of there. Oh, come on, Sam. That's low.
Sam taking a shot at you for Teeter Tuber. Tell us the story behind Teeter Tuber.
Oh, I went down to my first Savage race in Florida at their iconic Florida course. Is that on that horse farm down there? Garfield Griffith gave me a room in his on-course cabin the night before, and he was really kind to talk me through late into the night as he cuddled me to talk to me about all the things I need to be worried about. And he said, don't worry about Teeter Tuber. It's a little tricky. Everyone gets through it. So about 2/3 of the way through the race, we got through the final obstacle that I thought was going to be an issue. And I thought, here it goes. I'm going to go get my axe. And I made a move, separated from Yuri and Ken, built up a gap, got to Teeter Tuber, and got wedged. and I don't know if you remember, Josh, they used to have different diameter Teeter Tubers.
Yeah, they were unforgiving for us tall folks. So we've got the second and third place women at just about the same time coming out of Anchors Away. So there is a battle. We're about 45 seconds behind.
Ashley finished that obstacle first, but because she couldn't get her ring back off of there, she actually came off 40 meters behind. That is one that punishes short people if we want to complain. But anyways, I got wedged in this teeter tuber, and I went from probably 15 seconds ahead to 15 seconds behind with 300 meters left in the course. And I couldn't run Ken down. And so I lost, I don't know, $500 or $1,000, whatever it was, in teeter tuber. And I missed out on an axe. And to date, I still don't have an axe.
The axe, I'll tell you, it has to be the most prominent prize for any top podium spot.
It's unbelievable. It was my first one. So I thought, I'll come back and I'll get an axe next time. And that's the closest I've ever been to an axe.
Well, we were supposed to have teeter tuber back on course this weekend, but they took it out. I don't know the exact reason why they took it out, but the tall folks are probably thankful for that either way.
Now, I've been where Jared's at right now. He ran really, really aggressively to build this gap. Now the hurt's starting to set in, but he's got this huge carrot dangling in front of him, which is that axe. It is the prize money and taking the scalp of one of the top OCR athletes in the world. And so everything he's doing right now, I just got to assume he's running desperately right now, that happy desperate.
So you got Isabel into, I believe, 4th place.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
Cannot miss her on course. You see, she got her hand caught the wrong way, and she actually had to switch her grip in the middle of it, and did it pretty seamlessly.
Yeah, not too much panic in the move there. Just readjust, move on, and
she's pretty pumped about it. I wonder what's happening in between obstacles here, because every time we see her, she's running really well. Anyone know if she got hung up somewhere?
Yeah, I haven't seen her get hung up anywhere yet. The other women just came out really hot. That was the big thing was right in the beginning. The first 3 came out super hot, and everybody else was facing themselves a little bit.
That's that difference we talk about with OCR, Josh. It's the one endurance sport where it's not a bad choice to go out too hot sometimes.
Yeah, and especially, you can't really scout the course a ton, but if you are looking into the area, we've seen relatively flat ground. I don't think we've seen much in the way of terrain change here. So if you're a flat ground runner, and you can manage a pace, and we're talking 10K distance, right? You can really open it up. And like you said earlier, if you've ever run a local 5K and you're competing against somebody, the best thing you can do from a competition standpoint is just get 2 steps ahead of the person that you're fighting against. And most people respond semi-poorly to competition, unless they're you guys, the top. Oh, we got a stuck gator. Drop it into a low gear. They'll get out of it.
Look at this. We said there are no hills on course. Yeah, and OCR, let's say it's a half marathon or a 5K or a 10K. It doesn't matter what distance. Your ability and your pace is your pace. And if you go out too far ahead of that, you will pay for it and come back to earth eventually. But in off-road racing, and then you add obstacles into it, your pace changes so much throughout that you can recover on obstacles or you can get momentum going, and your body does not fall apart the same way it goes on the road.
Yep. So we got Caleb looking for an update, top 3 men and women. So we've got Jared Flank just came through Sawtooth, so he's currently leading for the men. Ian Hosick came out of the last obstacle in 2nd place, followed shortly by, sounds like, Van Tran, and then a couple other guys right behind him. And then for the women, we've got Chris Roglowski in the lead. We've got Ashley Samples. We've got Isabel all battling for the 2nd and 3rd spots there. So
I think Shannon Woodard in 3rd. I think. Could be wrong.
Well, this one's going to come down to the end. That's for sure. There's no guarantees in any of these positions right now. So that's what makes this great.
So this gap, we're already coming up on 45 seconds. It looks like I mean, we don't want to call it early, but Jared is good at obstacles. He is used to the Savage type rigs, and most of the really difficult pieces are behind him. So it is now Jared's race to lose, and the big battle on the men's side, at least, is Ian battling to stay on the podium.
Yeah, and we're probably going to cut right to the finish line because there's not a ton of space between Sawtooth and the finish line. So we want to make sure we catch Jared crossing if we do. So we may not catch Ian. We might not see them until they come across the finish line. But we'll see what we can find here. So
Jared's still looking strong.
Yeah, and I think he knows, right? I think he knows that Colossus is third obstacle from the finish. So you got Colossus, you've got the big wall, and then you've got Yank My Chain and the cargo net. So if he's already taken down a lot of these other obstacles, there's not a bunch here that'll get in the way for the rest of it. So
coming in and out of Colossus tells you everything you need to know about how someone's feeling. If they really accelerate up into it and then swim hard out of it, you know they've got it. And he ran and accelerated up and then swam out of it. He took a little time walking out of the obstacle, probably because he just knows he can afford it, but he got right back to running.
Looked like he was kicking some water out of his shoes there for a second.
Yeah. Now, I've had both ends of the spectrum. I've come into Colossus knowing this is it, I'm good, I'm rolling. And then I've come into it knowing I'm really gapped and I'm exhausted. And it's really hard to fake your body language coming in and out of that. I hope we get eyes on Ian and Van coming through there because that'll be really telling at the end of the race.
So we've got Jared closing in on the finish for the women. I'm going to cut back here. We've got Caleb. Is this the Savage rig you're coming back up to for the women?
We're coming up to rig.
Okay.
Coming up to rig.
Josh, if this holds for Jared, I'm going to put him up there with Logan Broadbent and Brian Gawiski for Performance of the Year from the Underdogs.
So we got folks in the chat saying Jared ran steeplechase, so water obstacles not posing too much of an issue for him.
I'm going to say there's no correlation there.
What I really want to know is what's the origination of the steeplechase? We'll get to that in a second as we look at Chris take on the Savage rig here.
Here's that transition. She didn't have momentum, so she's actually going to go back to it, untangle, and try to move forward. Look at that reach is not a simple reach right there. Now, what she's doing smart, she's not taking a big chance on the cheese so that she could make sure that when she got to the end, she was able to transfer the correct way. That was well done.
Yeah, that was well done with, if you didn't catch it, just hanging out on the transition there for a minute, needing to sort of readjust and not dropping down to start the obstacle again, just taking that extra second and saying.
Look at, we have second place up here, and
Jessica Dorsey is her name.
This is not who we thought was going to be in second. Jess here?
Jessica Dorsey, yep.
So you can see right off the bat that she's a little more hesitant, and she should be because she's about 3 inches shorter.
Yeah, that momentum is everything.
She's now. Oh, in third place on as well now. Is that Ashley?
It is.
So Ashley and Jess stuck here. Now Jess, again, is just going to be added disadvantage with wingspan.
Oh, trust me, I know all about it.
She had a great start, great momentum, and as soon as her momentum was dead in the water, her chances on that rig were pretty much done.
The kick of the bell for Ashley sends her into second place.
And it looked like fourth place female. Did she run up or no?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Is that a volunteer in the
volunteer.
background?
Yeah.
You know, Nicole Miracle posted the other day about the importance of your legs with momentum, and we're seeing it here that your legs play a huge part in just keeping you moving. So she's
this reach.
Yeah.
This is a big gap for her. And you're right. Now that she can't swing because the cheese bends so much, it's really, really tough.
Especially coming off, right? That last grip is going to pose some problems.
At this point, she should wait, I would say 30 to 45 seconds minimum, and just make sure that the next attempt is her last attempt. You get 2 freebies, and after that, that third attempt leads to 16 attempts if you don't get it on that try. So she's smart to be waiting right now.
We've got, while she takes a second, we've got
Van Tran coming over here.
Lee, what place do you have Van in right now?
He's in third. Ian's in second. They're both on Yank My Chain.
So Ian's going to take time on Yank My Chain just because he's as strong or stronger, and he's got another half foot of wingspan he gets to pull down into that thing. It's going to be an interesting little race to the finish here. Josh, everything balances out on course, tall versus short.
Yeah, we have our advantages and our disadvantages. So
Van absolutely took time on every crawl, and Ian fell through the netting a little bit there. Not a dangerous move, but it's really taxing. We had a truss grab. What's the truss rules here at Savage?
I think the rules are get over it.
We're not going to see a 15-minute penalty.
Structures like rig, then there's no supporting, no grabbing supporting structures. Cargo, it has to be deliberate.
So looking at the finish then for the men, you've got Jared Flank first. We'll see if we can get to him in a second. We've got Ian Hosick took second place. You see him collapsing down to the ground in the background there. And then Van Tran for third. Let's check back in on the women's rig here for a second.
Fourth place is approaching Yank My Chain.
Fifth place just came up, so now they're going for third.
When did Jessica make it through? How long ago? Or is she still over there at the? Is that her hiding behind that truss?
Yeah, she attempted again and couldn't quite get it.
Jared outran me and out off.
Oh, damn.
She switched to that over-under grip there. And now you can see there exactly what James said. Oh, didn't end up working, but she was going opposite sides of the cheese to keep it from bending.
Nice.
Looks like Chrissy's bullish on Jared's future.
Where's the rigs?
Well, he showed us a couple times this year so far. So Lee, let's ask Jared. It's his first Savage Axe. How's he feel about performing against a world-class athlete like Ian Hosick behind him?
All right, Jared, you ready? Listen, it's your first Axe. How do you feel about competing against a world-class athlete like Ian Hosick?
I am freaking stoked. Heck of a race for Savage. So, I'm the first one. I'm stoked and hungry to get guys like Ryan Woods have some very excited.
Big words. I like it.
I hope so. They're the ones who I look up to them a lot, and they're great dudes. What's looking after every Savage race that gives me advice, and just want to be keeping up with them. Got a lot of work to do.
Nice. Nice moves out there today.
Good stuff, man. We're going to come back in a second. Let's check on the women at the rig for a second here.
Oh yeah.
One issue we're seeing here, she's making big, drastic moves. And when you do that, you're swinging pretty aggressively, and it doesn't take much on that cheese to fall off.
There you go.
Yeah, I think getting to that anchor is it's definitely key. You get to change grips. You get a little more sturdiness from the anchor.
Oh, this is so hard for me to watch. Because you know that feeling of being so close and then you lose momentum, and she's going to have to leap for it.
There it is.
There we are. We know it, Justin.
Right behind.
Dustin. We know it.
So Caleb, what was the placement on those two when they came out of that rig? Was that third and fourth or second and third?
That was third and fourth right there. We did have a lead change.
So we'll probably pick them up again on Colossus, I assume.
That's where we're headed.
Excellent.
Yeah, we got, Wheel World, Sawtooth, a couple other hit the mute on that, and windy Texas Hill Country. But yeah, we still have a battle going on course for the women, and the lead was certainly not as big for Chris as it was for Jared coming into some of those obstacles. So you never know what
it wasn't
coming down the final pipe here.
And it was maybe 20-second lead coming into that obstacle, but then coming out of it, she probably had 2 minutes? Because Jessica came in second, I believe, and came out in fourth.
Yeah, and I think with these courses, the way we set it up, right? You get the running not out of the way. You're always going to have running throughout the course, but just that that gauntlet of obstacles that we like to see at the end, even sort of evens the playing field for everybody, and just builds better competition, right? We saw those girls spend a good chunk of time and still ultimately came out almost side by side.
Yeah, and it was interesting. You saw Ian Hosick and Van Tran come off that rig there and finish about the same distance apart. Once the obstacles came into it, it really kind of mellows out the top runners and brings them closer together with that next tier runner. And so that damage, you're right, the damage has to be done early in the race if you're not the obstacle specialist.
And talk to us, Bracken, about, you see somebody finish the obstacle that was struggling for a couple rounds right when you were right beside them. Does that give you a little extra boost of strength just to sort of get through it if you see them do it first?
Yeah, the way you feel when you pass someone running on the race course is doubled or tripled that little adrenaline shot when you pass them on an obstacle and you know that they took some endurance and grip strength hit on that and you flew through. It's almost like you absorbed all that energy they lost on it. You get to scoop that up as you go by. It's a huge swing of momentum. So as far as we know, Chris is in first. Ashley, I believe, Samples has moved into second. And then we have Isabel and Jessica battling for third and fourth.
Then we've got, so let's find out. Caleb, what obstacle are you guys heading over to next?
We're headed to Wheel World. However, it looks like the top two just passed it.
Okay.
So we might just head straight into Colossus.
Any idea on that gap between first and second at this point?
We got here a little late. It was over at least like a minute.
All right, we can get a clock on that now.
Yeah. So we got Chris coming through Sawtooth, which is obstacle 21. And then she's got a couple others just to get over, and then Colossus shortly after that.
We've got the walk-up going on. We all know that feeling.
We all know that feeling. The question of, do I have the grip remaining to get through this?
The button's been pushed, and now what's left is left.
Yep. Still gutting it out. Maybe the arms are a little straighter than you'd like them to be at that point in the race, but I'll tell you, if you've never done Sawtooth, for me, it's one of the obstacles in obstacle course racing. It's simplistic in that it's monkey bars, but you've got that transition in the middle with thicker bars, and the guys at Savage will beat you up with some mud and water beforehand, so it just makes it even that much more difficult.
We're at a 1 minute gap right now. So she's maybe closed down a little bit since that last rig, but it's such a gap right now that she needs a mistake up front. She's not going to be able to take a minute in this last this last gauntlet here.
Just fluid as anything. Smooth,
Yeah.
hand over hand on the way up. It was all
Still running
perfect.
strong.
Yeah.
Looking at a minute and a half roughly gap. 90 seconds she has to make up. So again, she's going to have to rely on a mistake up front, but at this point she might be running to hold on to second. But if that last rig was any indication, she has a healthy lead.
Teresa Lee. Definitely try and catch. Yank my chain.
Good copy.
So we've got a semi-equal gap between second and third, it looks like, but we've got Chris heading up Colossus.
At this point, Josh, I'm most excited about that third, fourth battle on the women's side. That was the loudest Colossus I've heard in a while.
Well, it's one of those things where, like, when you look at Colossus from the ground and you're just staring at it, you're like, it's a schoolyard slide. That's not a big deal. Then go sit at the top of Colossus and look down and tell me how you feel about it. It's much different.
One of the worst parts about that is that if you hit the water wrong, it just rushes up your nose.
Yep.
And that sounds like a non-issue, but when you're already gasping, water up your nose, it almost instantly makes you dizzy.
Yeah, you get that sharp sinus pain just from the old the water injection. It's not fun.
I mean, it's one thing to get it at the local pool, but it's another to get it when you're at 180, 190 heart rate and you've already been racing for 5 miles.
And then it ruins your race photos. Like, honestly, that's the worst part about it.
I think we need to bring back Monday Mess. No more flexing race photos. It's time for the nasty photos, the gross ones.
Hey, Lee, quick clarification for folks watching. Is Yank My Chain for the women? Are we sticking with just getting the chain off the ground, or are we asking them to go all the way to the top of the pulley?
It's all the way to the top for male and female.
Okay.
Good question, Matthew. And that right there, Josh. Wow, look at how much sway there is on that monkey bar over there. Does Sawtooth usually move that much?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the ladders are pretty bouncy.
Huh. I guess I haven't been on the new bouncy ladder. That adds a little to it. So anyways, Yank My Chain might be a difference maker for that third, fourth battle because you had Jessica who appears to be on the low end of 5 feet. And that's going to make a difference with that heavy chain having to get it all the way to the top. We could see that race decided right there on that obstacle.
So we got Chris running. So she finished Colossus, coming up to Barn Doors, which are these slatted walls here, and then it's Yank My Chain, which is the last strength-based obstacle.
Did you catch her shaking her arms out there for a little bit?
Yep.
Corey, if they hold Chicago, I'll be there.
Well, we'll see you there then.
I'm not putting the onus on you. I'm putting it on the local constituencies.
We've already got all our permits. Oh, sorry, I was just talking on the other cam. We are filming you though, so don't fail.
No pressure.
Watch that cadence slow as the extra links here get off the ground.
Yeah, she took that extra second, right, just to get both hands and then give it that full body pull.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. The more I see it, the more I like that obstacle. All right, Sam. Well, I will see you there.
It's a full go for Chicago. I did Chicago Savage last year, right in the middle of pandemic time, and they nailed it. They executed on everything, so it was perfect.
Now, for a couple of years, I lived about 20 minutes from that site, and now I live about an hour. It's my least favorite course. I'll go every year. I have the ability to because you can't not race in your backyard, but man, I wish it was the Georgia course or something instead.
Oh man, you're gonna get your wish one way or another, Bracken. They're coming for you.
Teeter Tuber re-debut. Come on, now I'm 3 for 3 on Teeter Tuber since that day, Sam. Give me a break. That Chicago course is just so fast and flat. It's similar to this course. There's nowhere to hide
There
out
we
there.
go.
You show up ready to run or you're not.
Third place.
And it's
Female.
always hot. I'm a baby.
Lee, have you seen the third place women come through Sawtooth yet?
Right here.
Okay. So in short frames, third place coming through Sawtooth. We got second place here in
Starting to stall almost.
each pole tends to get a shorter and shorter distance towards
She fought for that one.
yeah. It's a battle. We're onto something here.
Yeah, and that's it. She's got it. I mean, unless she fails the cargo here, she's just locked down a podium spot.
If you fail the cargo, it could be take your pro band definitely. For life.
Someone will figure out a way to do it someday.
So when we wait on the finish, again, detriment to the tall folks that are out there. Savage Chicago in 2020, we went out there and they ran us under this little tunnel just throughout the course, just nondescript little tunnel with some cement overhangs. I was doing the tired runner thing where I was just looking down instead of ahead. I ran head first directly into the cement overhang of this tunnel and just knocked myself on my butt. So always got to pay attention when you're out there.
Well, congratulations, Ashley Samples. That looks like second place, well-earned finish.
Yeah, that was a battle. Multiple lead changes for the podium and second and third place for the women. And we've got third place came through Sawtooth just a minute ago, so they've got still a little bit to go.
Fourth place female has not approached Sawtooth yet. Looks like we
Oh, wow.
gap pretty big.
So we got a pretty good gap. A lot of grit jerseys at that finish line at Savage, that's for sure.
There are. They're a Texas-based production, right? Out of Dallas or Austin?
Yeah, I do know most of them are Texas-based. Is there a California side of that too, or is that a different grit that's out there?
I don't know. The grit games take place in Texas. That's all I know.
Yep.
We need someone else to comment so we can get Sam's comment off the screen.
I mean, I could just take it off the screen if you want. I'll add a good old woohoo from Destin.
Thank goodness.
You were getting inside Bracken's head. He didn't like staring at it. But good to hear about Savage in Chicago. So if you're thinking about registering for a race and maybe you're standing off based on the times we're in, sounds like Chicago's a thumbs up. So knock yourself out.
Yeah, the Midwest is in need of races. We've had a lot of non-confirmations and races not re-upping, especially in the Chicago area. So that's good news for all of us Midwesterners. And you can see what this course does to people.
Yeah, and it's just the running that you see at the end of the race, right? It's just it's a telling factor of how bad it's sort of beat people up. They've got that sort of shorter step, the head down, the shoulders are hunched over.
It's also a good reminder that first mile doesn't need to be a PR.
That's the part I struggle with. You get caught up in the excitement of the people around you and you think, hey, I can keep up with these guys. And before you know it, my heart rate is maxed out and I'm 100 meters into the race. That might be a problem. Boy, I was sailing through Sawtooth.
Yeah, that screen froze at the right time there. So we still not seeing the 4th place female come through?
That's correct. I keep expecting, but no results.
What was between the rig and here that could trip people up?
Wheel world.
Wheel whirl. I suppose if you blew out your grip and you come in wet or muddy, that's a ticket for disaster. Or a recipe.
And, Battering Bird was in there too, right? I think.
Yes, battering bird in between. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, that's a tough order with the 3 to 10 rig attempts in your system already.
Yep.
You know, I really like World, and I really, really like it over water. That's one of the great things about that Illinois course is it's been over water each year, I believe.
Yep.
Obstacles over water just add a little something to it. Little atmosphere.
Well, yeah, it adds an element of fear as well. You know, once you fall in, it becomes harder second try.
Mm-hmm. And it looks awesome. And that can't be overlooked.
Presentation is part of it, right?
Presentation's everything, Josh Chase.
Yeah, when you think about these obstacles, right? That just when you walk up to this stuff, it's hard enough to go on an incline, monkey bar, transition through the lower one, right? And then, oh, by the way, once you get to the top, the water's below you. So the possibility that you could take a plunge, not just from the ground level, but from height, that's a little added fear factor.
Changes the stakes a little bit.
Yep.
And it's interesting that most people don't oh, here we are. I'll stop talking for a bit. She looked like a little quicker through there. It's good performance there on that obstacle. That Miranda Huber?
It is 3rd place.
Miranda came out of nowhere.
Call back up on the rig.
Once again, the rig, the differentiator for the podium spots.
Big takeaway again. Georgia said it. We echoed it here now. If you're about to come out to one of these races, it's time to work on that up and down movement as well as across on some grip work. Keeping momentum going while you drop down and then go back up is a difficult learned skill, but it's certainly learnable.
All right, so accountability check, Bracken. We saw you talk about some wet handholds and wet grip work after the last Savage race. How much have you done since then?
Well, I recorded a video doing it. So one.
Are you telling me you only recorded that video just to post and you didn't truly do the workout?
I mean, that is my workout. I continued the workout, but that was the only one.
Well, I've done a lot of the grip work, working on the pull-ups, working on the grip changes, but yeah, same thing. I haven't got a chance to get your hands wet and simulate that race day experience.
Hey guys, you want to do some interviews at the finish line?
I suppose they've earned it.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm going to turn the camera around and let them just hold it. That way they can kind of see their beautiful faces. Talk with you guys. All right. We're here at the finish line. You guys can just take it, and you should be able to hear them tough going in.
What's going on, boys? How you feeling?
How goes it? Good. Who are we talking to?
It's Josh and Bracken.
Oh, hey guys.
So, Ian, let me start with you real quick. It's your first Savage.
Yeah.
Tell us about it, man.
What?
Tell us about it. How'd you feel today?
Oh, it was great. We needed like at least 2,000 more feet of elevation, more than 0, an 80-pound carry, and that would have been helpful. But you got Jared here running really fast. I failed the rig on my first attempt, which was made it harder. And then Van showed up, so that I had to run even faster. But it was a lot of fun. I'll definitely be doing more of these, and I'm excited to get some of that obstacle efficiency down. I haven't done a real like hard obstacle course in terms of technical obstacles since October 2018. So it was a trial by fire, and I haven't raced in over a year. So good rust buster for today.
Absolutely, man. Well, good to see you out there. Good to see you on a Savage course, that's for sure. Do you have anything on the docket up next, or are you just flying by the seat of your pants with your schedule?
No, here, jump on in here. The schedule is, I think I'm going to Montana. At the start of May for Spartan. I now have to look what other Savage races there are. Probably fly somewhere. They need to get out to the West Coast, and I hear it's in the works, but we'll see. And then Utah, Spartan, and those are my next up. And we'll see how the pandemic and everything plays out. See where I actually end up.
And Jared, what about you? So you take home your first axe.
Yes, sir.
You're excited about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, pumped up.
How is it running at the front of the field? We know you were hunting down Kempson a couple weeks ago. Now you're leading the pack. What's the feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing Savages for a little over 3 years now, and this is the first time I got to have a race plan. Usually it's go chase Kempson, go chase Woods, go chase Yuri, hold on as long as I can. And this one, 3 miles in, we were both right there, and it was weird, but it was a nice feeling.
First of all, congratulations. There's nothing like that first win, that first axe.
Yes, I did.
However, you got all excited crossing the finish line and you said, "Nah, I'm coming after Kempson and Woods."
I did not say coming after. I said I'm excited to compete with them.
You said the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take them down. Are you?
Different. I'm calling no one out.
Step up, call him out. Woods, he's calling you out. Ryan, he's calling you out.
Woodsy won in Charlotte today. Woodsy won in Charlotte, and the first thing he did when he crossed the finish line is he said, "Jared, I'm coming for you." So we've got a showdown now. What's the next Savage race for you? Where are we going to see you next? Where you can go out, be a man of your word, and beat Kempson and Woods?
You know, I got some bad blood with Savage Charlotte. I was with Woods last Charlotte race, and I sprained my ankle there, so probably gonna have to get out back there. It was pretty flat, which seems to be the better Savage races for me. Got Ragnar coming up next weekend, I think.
Which Ragnar?
I think it's in Atlanta. No, I'm running with the King Compounds team. They're gonna tell me when to run, and I'm just gonna go run. That's my game plan.
Well, nice performance there, boys. Happy to see both of you out there. And Jared, congrats on the win.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Ian,
guys.
how did that heat treat you today?
It's actually really windy and dry, so it wasn't too bad. It definitely was a little hot. The cart dusted us out for the first mile and a half.
Yeah, running on like a beach.
The heat was a little rude awakening, but it was mostly just like the humidity and the fact that I haven't touched like a technical rig in a very long time. That was a lot of fun. I had a great time. And Jared also just like sprung over the walls. You reminded me of you, Bracken, just like bouncing over things, which was dumb. And like,
Ian, what was your first thought when you came up to like Anchors Away? We saw you pause for a second and try and just mentally look through it. What are you thinking when you come to these obstacles compared to what you've seen elsewhere?
well, I had mental game plans for everything, and it was more just like dialing through my head on what the game plan was. Like I had talked with Kempson on how to do Anchors Away. There was a little like hiccup in the middle where I didn't like do everything perfectly and I lost like 1 or 2 seconds. But the fact that I completed everything fairly flawlessly minus that rig, I was really happy with. And it's all just about like getting time on these things and practicing them. The first time touching rings on Anchors Away was a little startling, but it's just like, okay, I know how to do this, and then you just got to go through and execute. Then once you have the plan, it's about that muscle memory.
Well, Ian, I said it on the broadcast, but you obviously didn't get to hear it because you were out there getting after it. But I applaud you for getting out of your comfort zone. This was the exact opposite end of the spectrum of what you would consider your bread and butter, and I'm impressed that you're out here working that other edge of the sword.
Dude, you got to get after it. I mean, I'm finally got my mental game dialed in. I've been working with my performance coach, Graham Roberts, iSpire Motivational Coaching. Look him up. He coached Ryan, Lindsay, and myself. He's great. He works with Rhea. But I've got that dialed in, and now it's about, like, I've always been a mountain person, heavy things. I'm pretty good at obstacles, not the best. But coming to a flat course in the heat and haven't touched an obstacle in a while, you just gotta get after it and see what works, what doesn't work, and then go from there.
Absolutely. I hope everyone takes it to heart. And Jared, again, congrats, man. We'll see you out there soon.
He earned it.
Do you guys
Thanks,
have is Chris nearby?
Hey guys, I got Ashley right now. She came in second. She's got lots to say about the race. I'll let you, if you want to just hold it.
Sure. Oh, sorry.
You're fine.
I'll just drop it.
She has
Ashley,
lots to say, huh? That sounds ominous.
It's Josh and Bracken. You have a lot to say about the race. Let's hear it.
I've just been having like a really mentally down season. I lost my band both races in Florida in the fall of last year. And then ever since then, I've just been having a mental struggle. I've missed all the Savage races so far this year due to just all different circumstances. So I was really excited to be here today and finally just get these obstacles under my belt and feel smooth and gain some confidence to get through the season.
And you did exactly that today. What was the differentiator for you coming into these obstacles? Because we've seen the obstacles once again be the difference maker for the women. Where do you think you shined on these today?
Today, I definitely think I moved from third to second at the rig, so I would say that was my strong point today. I got really lucky. Two friends of mine built me one of the cheese boards for my birthday. They actually made it out of plywood, painted it. It was super helpful. I got to train on that leading up to the race just so I could have some confidence and learn how to better control my body on the cheese. So I felt really comfortable going into it and got it on the first shot.
Well, I'll tell you, for someone that came in not having raced recently and with some self-admitted mental struggles, you were one of the few people who capitalized at every mental point. You didn't get hung up. You moved through things. So your ring rust did not show today. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. You're speaking my heart right now. It feels really good.
It should. It's something you can't fake. And so to come out here and realize I still have it and I was able to execute, you should really take home something big mentally out of that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And your words help as well.
Yeah, that's a big win for you, Ash. Where are we going to see you next? What Savage are you planning on after this one?
I don't know, North Carolina. When is that? June? I think North Carolina I'll probably be at.
Well, if you want the chance to take down Bracken, he'll be at Savage Chicago in July. So if you want to get out there.
Oh, yeah, I got him, no problem.
Listen, if I don't care about keeping my band, I'm going to beat you time-wise.
Okay, fair deal.
Well, Ashley, congratulations with the podium spot today. Great performance, and good luck with your next one.
Thank you so much.
Good job, Ashley. Hey guys, I failed and I lost Chris, so that's gonna have to cut it for the.
She ran off on us.
Interviews. Yeah, she ran off. I think she's getting some friends registered to race, so I'm gonna bounce out of here. I think they.
Well, when you see her
out doing some obstacle stuff.
When you see her, let her know we were impressed with that performance today.
We will.
All right, man. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right, Bracken. Let's kick some folks off the stream.
What's your takeaway today, Josh? Send these people out with something to go home with.
My takeaway with Savage is if you're training, and actually, let me boost your ego a little bit, Bracken. You and Kirk said something on your podcast in the last year that has rung true with me in my training for the last several months, and it's that you don't train for the workouts to get easier. You train that you can endure harder workouts, right? And I've seen that ring true in my training, and most of my training has been run focused. And I've noticed myself being able to run further and longer distances and being able to just gut through the harder stuff. And if you are training to be good at Savage today, and that's all you're going to train for, you might find yourself at Savage tomorrow struggling to keep up, because we've seen these races just continue to get more and more challenging and more difficult. And they're not going to stop stepping it up when it comes to this stuff. So keep your training going and keep working hard and keep gutting it out. That's what it rings true for me.
I like it. That's good stuff. And you
What
know
about
what,
you, my friend?
what jumped out at me again this week is that if you are planning on doing Savage races this year, the protocol seems to be you have to show up ready to run fast in the first half of that race. You can't slow play it and hope to make up ground in the second half. You have to be up there to start with and then be ready to do tricky, complicated handwork in the second half of the race. But if you're not ready to run early and grip late, you're going to find yourself running into some of the same issues that some of these top athletes have been so far.
Yeah, it's a great point. And we've got a little bit different course up next. So in a few weeks, we've got Maryland Savage on May 1st, which I will actually be at. And the terrain there is a little bit different than what we've seen so far. You get some quick, steep inclines, some quick drops into the gullies, and no shortage of mud at Savage, Maryland. So who knows what combination of difficult rigs, muddy handholds, and everything else that we're going to see. So
we do know that hills and mud will never make those rigs easier. So make sure your grip game is on point.
All right. So thanks everybody for tuning in to another good Savage broadcast. We'll catch you in a couple weeks from Maryland. And if you haven't already, sign up savagerace.com. It sounds like Sam and team has their races ready to go for 2021. So we'll catch you later on the next one.
Josh Chase, it's been a pleasure as always. Savage Race, thanks for putting on another awesome event. The People's Champ.